All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you from Kiev, Ukraine. My name is Anu Ojo, and it's a pleasure to be on your screen this beautiful day. On the 28th of May, we celebrated Dr. Sunday Adelaja's 54th birthday. And if you happen to join us for the countdown to his birthday, we had amazing individuals, people who had known Dr. Sunday for decades. So they came and they shared with us from their experiences with Dr. Sunday. Some had known him for 10 years, some had known him for 20 years, and we had Dr. Sunday's sister who had known him all his life. And it wasn't just about talking good things about Dr. Sunday, but there were a lot of lessons that we learned. So if you missed out on any of the previous episodes where we had people come to talk about their experiences with Dr. Sunday, I want to encourage you to do all that you can. Go to Dr. Sunday's YouTube channel. That is Dr. Sunday Adelaja. Search for the playlist, My Experience with Dr. Sunday at 24. So you're going to see a drop down of all of the videos we recorded with people talking about their experience with Dr. Sunday and some amazing lessons that we could learn from that. We also had the opportunity to interview one of Dr. Sunday's high school mates. His name is Primate Emmanuel Isegbe, and he took us down the memory lane talking about his experience with Dr. Sunday, not as a pastor or as a mentor, but guess what? As a friend and as a colleague way down back to Idomila. And today we are having another amazing personality with us. He also was a colleague with Dr. Sunday back there in Idomila. They attended the same high school, and he today will be joining us to share some of his experience he can remember being not just a mentee or a member of Dr. Sunday's church, but being in the same school, the same high school with Dr. Sunday. So joining us from Nigeria is Mr. Bunmi Banjo. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Anu.
Well,
Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you too.
Beautiful. Well, as I was saying before I introduced you, we had the opportunity to invite Primate Emmanuel Isegbe. I think that name should sound familiar to you.
I know him very well, Emmanuel Isegbe.
Yeah.
We all attended Idomila Community High School.
Yeah, Idomila Community High School.
That was we were there 1980 till 1985.
Wow, that's a long time, long time.
And
he mentioned your name too, because he was trying to remember some names of people who were together with Dr. Sunday, and I remember he mentioned Bunmi Banjo, and today we have Bunmi Banjo with us. Thank you so very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So we're going to jump right into it, sir. We want to get to hear from your own experience as much as you can remember, because this has been like decades ago, but we are curious to know who DSA was while he was back in high school. So I think I would start with if you can remember, when was the very first time you got to meet Dr. Sunday? Back then, I'm sure it was not Dr. Sunday, it was Sunday Adelaja.
Yes.
When was it, and what was the scenario that brought you guys together, if you can remember, sir?
In 1980, September 1980, I can't remember the date, but I remember it was September 1980.
Yeah.
So that was when, then I was in Ijebu-Ode.
Okay.
I had my primary school at St. Augustine Catholic School, Ijebu-Ode. So, although I had earlier been in Ibadan, but later I moved to Ijebu-Ode. And when it was time to go to the secondary school, then it was during this Awolowo's time, this Unity Party of Nigeria for Education, that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was no exam at the time. We were all just posted to Idomila Community High School. At that time, too, I remember the school was newly opened. It was newly established in that 1980. We were all the first set of the school then.
You were the
in
first
September
set.
1980. Yes, we were.
Wow.
We were. Myself, Sunday, just for this period, let me call him Sunday so that the memory will flow. Sunday, Emmanuel, Namdi, Sunday Hal France, Anthony, a lot of others back then in 1980. So we met basically in September 1980. We were in Form 1 then.
Beautiful. I noticed something that you did there. I just want to jump in right there. Maybe I could pick something out. You're about to say Sunday something. What was it? Are you making reference to Dr. Sunday or another Sunday?
Where I was trying to mention some names that were also colleagues at the time, classmates at the time. So there were actually 2 Sundays at that time. There was Sunday Adelaja, our revered Sunday Adelaja, and then there was another Sunday, Sunday Alphonse.
Okay.
So there were 2 Sundays actually at the time.
I get it. Okay, because I was trying to detect if it was Dr. Sunday you wanted to talk about. Maybe he had a different Sunday. Before that,
he had always been Sunday Sukomi Adelaja.
Sunday Sukomi Adelaja. Awesome.
Yes.
So being the very first set, Johnny Idomila, what was it like in your high school? Because Dr. Sunday had told us about this Idomila, that Idomila was a very remote village, and he describes it, although now I understand that it's no longer remote. Of course, civilization has, brought a lot of things to the area. But when he recounts, it talks about it being a very remote village with less than 40 houses, and then he gave some account about even the school and the state of the school. What is your memory? What can you remember about Idomila as a village and the school that you all were as the first set?
Okay. That was talking back then in 1980, 81, thereabouts.
Back then. Okay. Yeah, back then.
Like I told you, we were the first set. We had a block of about 6 classrooms at the time. The school was newly established. I think there were about 3 arms then, A, B, C, from 1A, 1B. We couldn't be more than either 2, I think 2 arms, I recall. 2 arms, yeah. A and B then. It was a remote place. Idomila then was 2 kilometers away from Ijebu-Ode. Yeah. There were no motorcycles then, there were no tricycle. Buses do not ply that route. Most times, including myself that I'm talking now, many of us would trek all the way from Ijebu-Ode to Idomila.
Wow.
And Sunday was at Idomila then. He was a resident of Idomila. Myself, that Emmanuel that you mentioned, Sunday Alphonse, we were all in Ijebu-Ode. So early in the morning, we trekked down. The place was quite isolated then. There were forests, thick forests, real forests, with streams along the way. But, unlike now, there was much more security at the time. So there was no fear walking down. Even the people in Idomila then, some of them ride bicycles, many trekked. So it was a remote environment, just 1 block of 6 classrooms. One of the classrooms was demarcated into 2. Yeah. Half of that classroom that was demarcated being used by our principal then. Alaji Ashiru was Alaji Ashiru, that was his name. Then the remaining half was the staff room. Then another room there that was converted to a laboratory. Then we had our class from 1A. I think another class from 1B. We had 2 arms. I remember quite clearly now.
Yeah.
We had 2 arms back then in 1980 to 81.
Wow.
We would be under, I want to believe we were under 100. Not long ago, Sunday himself sent a photograph to me. I was even surprised. I didn't know how he came about the picture. He was asking me to try to identify some of the individuals, and I had tried my best. The ones I could remember, I had sent to him.
So being together in Form 1, because you were in Idomila, you were in Ijebu there and he was from Idomila. So I'm guessing you are from 2 different, location. So
the school was our meeting point then.
The school was the meeting point. So, yeah. I mean, what is your earliest memory of the personality of Dr. Sunday when you met in Form 1? How would you describe him, if you can remember the Sunday that you met in Form 1? And then we're going to talk about how he progressed till Form 5 and all of that.
Sincerely speaking, myself and Sunday, we were not that close in Form 1.
Okay.
All the while, I had always been a reserved person. I know him. I remember him in Form 1, but the closeness was not very much then. It was in the course of our school days along the line that we had a very close relationship, and which I thank God we are still able to maintain all these years till today. But then all I could say was that I do not mean to belittle him or ridicule him. He's just try to answer candidly.
Yeah, we need a candid response, a honest response.
The question that you put to me. Then I could remember Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. Sunday is an amiable person. You can't hate him. He's a free person. He likes to play. But he was not, I don't know how we would take this, but then I'm just trying to be frank. At the earliest time, he was not the serious kind of person initially, sincerely. That's where I would describe him. And I'm just trying to, not that I'm trying to belittle him or he was the play type, carefree type. Maybe that's what I want to use. The carefree type. From 1, from 2, he plays football, go around, mingles with people. But by the time we got to Form 4, it was like something just dawned on him. It changed, and all that changed. All that, I remember that now, and that was part of the things that brought us together. All that changed. He became the bookworm type. He was, pursuing academics with all his vigor. I remember very clearly that he had a brother in the USSR then, now Russia. Brother Taye. I had not been able to meet that Brother Taye, but in the Adelaja family, among the Adelaja family, that Brother Taye is like a household name.
Yeah.
So I think it's that one. That man too played a role in his life to transform him. I want to believe to help him to get to this level today, and to the glory of God.
Beautiful.
So I think that's the little I could say.
You can remember. Now. Yeah, because what you're
maybe
saying,
as we speak along, probably some other ideas.
We'll talk about other things.
Memory will come.
And you can be very free to discuss, because something about Dr. Sunday is that he's been very open, and he's been very vulnerable with his experiences through life. And what you're saying actually agrees with what he has said about himself. In describing who he was back then, I mean, he described himself as a hooligan. He was like, he said he was so, what's the word? So stubborn. Yeah. He said he was so stubborn.
Well, surely I will not use the word hooligan.
Yeah, maybe that's extreme.
What I could say was that I remember this one too very clearly. Dr. Sunday was, back then, he had a small stature, and in the secondary school, there were always bullies. Now, you cannot bully Sunday. No matter how big you are, you can't bully him. That's one I can say about him. You can't bully him. He will fight, he would. So maybe that was the reason some people want to use the term hooligan or that kind of thing. He could go into a fight if he feels you want to cheat him or probably you want to take advantage of his stature or that kind of thing. So he will do that. And he does not like people cheating others. He could also fight for others. That I remember too about him. That was my candid opinion.
Yeah, and this agrees to what Primates Emmanuel Esegwe also said about Dr. Sunday, that he, just exactly what you're saying too, that he was very vocal and he would fight for justice, and he would fight for, just like you were saying, so if he needs to fight for himself or to fight for others, he was that kind of person. And it's interesting that he's still the very same person even till now, because a lot of people call him a troublemaker because he's always fighting, and if he's not fighting, it's almost like he must be fighting something
for a cause.
He must be fighting for a cause, and he's still the same person till now. So it's interesting to see that this attitude, or this, I think I'll call it an attitude, he has had it even right back since his high school days. But that's also very interesting. And another thing that you just said also is also in alignment with what he has said about himself, about his small stature. He actually said that growing up until he came to USSR, he had pictures of himself. He was so lanky and so small, and he said he had to, when he came to the former USSR, he said he had to give life to himself. And by giving life to himself, he meant giving life to himself holistically. So giving life to himself by giving his life to Jesus Christ and, feeding his spirit by praying, fasting, and all of the spiritual exercises, and then giving life to himself by giving life to his soul, to his mind, through self-education, self-development. And also, he said he had to give life to himself by giving life to his body. So you look at Dr. Sunday, right? I mean, he has some of his pictures. I don't know if you have seen some of his pictures.
I remember, if you allow me to say this, I remember he traveled to USSR. I recollect very clearly. All these ones I recollect very clearly.
Yeah.
He traveled 1986, should be around September also. I can't remember the date. 1986, because we finished in 85. And then he, a year in between, I think he was working, I think he worked at a plastic company. He only shaped polyware or something, somewhere in Djibouti, around the Koto also. At that time, there were no internet, no phone.
Yeah.
It's only the rich that had phones then. And it's not this kind of phone, no email. We do write, we do communicate. So at the time I was monitoring him, I knew he was going to travel because he had told me. So that time, I think that was the time he gave his life to Christ too, because while we were in school, even up till Form 5, I couldn't recollect him being an SU or he born again. For that, those were the words we used to describe, a believer then. You either call them SU or born again. And Sunday wasn't an SU up till Form 5. But shortly after secondary school, after we finished in the secondary school, he wrote a letter to me that he's now born again. And that. I think he was attending Deeper Life then, if I'm not mistaken.
True. He said that was 6 months before he left Nigeria. Also. Look,
Yes. I used to have this picture, but due to probably carelessness along the line, it got destroyed. This was one of the pictures that he sent to me then. Then back to the bodybuilding in 1988, when he left in 1986, September 1986. He didn't come back. I remember this one very clearly too. He didn't come back until 1988. And by the time he came back in 1988, I think he was doing this bodybuilding something. His muscle, he grew quite muscular with a kind of hairstyle, FT, like a weightlifter. So I had that picture too in 1988 when he first came back after he traveled to USSR. I used to have that picture that you showed me now, but unfortunately it got destroyed and I had not been able to save it there. Okay, he was just building up here.
Yeah,
he was just building up here. The one that I sent me in 1988, he was bigger than this one that I'm looking at now. Yes. Probably this was the onset of his bodybuilding then.
Yeah. Fantastic. I'm going to go back now. It's interesting because Sunday is just an interesting personality. But let's go back to your friendship. So you said you became friends with him, or you became closer when you were in your Form 4, Form 5.
Put it that way. We became closer.
Became closer. So
From 4 to Form 5.
From 4 to Form 5. Good. Let's talk about, if you don't mind, a little about his personality. Dr. Sunday, he tells us about how he battled with self-esteem. Perhaps that was connected to the fact that he had to struggle because he was with his grandmother and they didn't have a lot of resources. And, he talked about how even growing up, he didn't have, sometimes shoes to go to school and all of that, and some of the struggles. Do you have any memory of him battling with his self-esteem? Was he a very, was he a shy personality, or what do you have to say about that?
Yes. I wouldn't have remembered this, but you put me in perspective to remember. When we were in school, I couldn't recollect the year now. Yes. From one, he was living with his grandmother. Then along the line, the mother died. That mama died.
Yes, mama
that grandmother died while we were in school. Now, I recollect that for like a term, 2 terms, he was demoralized. He was quite demoralized. I think it should be Form 1 or Form 2. He should be the person, he wouldn't forget that kind of thing. I didn't remember the exact year, but we were quite young then, either Form 1 or Form 2. That mama died, and it affected him. It affected him. It really affected him for quite a while. It affected him. I think I remember that at a time, the grandmother's colleagues then, or should I say townspeople or fellow residents in Dumila at a time, was taking care of Sunday.
Of him.
Soon after the demise of his grandmother.
Yeah.
So it's really affected him. That I could say. I remember it affected him. It affected him. Yeah.
Good. And I guess that happened to, because not just even Getty, he describes it that the passing away and the demise of his grandmother was the turning point for his life, because he really cherishes the memory of his grandmother, because he talks about how after she passed, all of the lessons she was teaching him that he refused
to dawn on him.
It began to dawn on him. And I think that also coincides with the transformation you said that happened with him in his Form 3, Form 4, Form 5, where he became serious with school and became a diligent student as such, and that is very remarkable. So, but let's continue our conversation, if you don't mind, about his sport life. Dr. Sunday talks about how he was very sport oriented. Can you talk about his inclination to sports?
I remember 2 things very clearly. At that time we used to do inter-house sports.
Yes.
I couldn't really recall the house to which he belonged now, but I remember that back then. I remember we used to have Omila house. There was Banjoko house. There was school house. There was one other house. I couldn't remember that now. So, like Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, every year we used to have inter-house sports. Now, back then, he would participate in sprinting. this short distance.
Yeah.
If you are not energetic, you could not do short distance. He do participate short distance, relay. Then he loved to play football back then. He loved to play football. So those were the things I remember about his sports life. Let me quickly chip this in. Probably I was unable to really answer satisfactorily, the aspect of home fronts.
Yeah.
You will recall I said that we were not close initially.
Yes.
We were classmates, but being classmates is different from being close to a person.
Absolutely.
As at the time he lost his grandmother, I had not been close to him to the extent that I would follow him to his house then.
Got it.
Okay, so I couldn't really, tell you what happened at the home front back then.
Yeah.
All I remember was that, it would be news when somebody, lose a close one.
Yeah.
So when he lost his grandmother, it was news in the school. We were all sympathetic then, and we knew that. So back to his sports life, he was a footballer. I could say he was a sprinter back then too. Those were the things I remember about him, his sports life.
Yeah. Awesome. That's interesting. I'm going to come back to you, sir, but let me just take a moment to talk to our viewers who are watching us right now. I hope you're enjoying the conversation, and this is,
of course, yes.
Yeah, awesome. And this is just one of the ideas that we came up with to have people who have known Dr. Sunday for the longest time possible. And we're having Mr. Bunmi Banjo with us right now. If you're just joining, he is from Nigeria. He's a Nigerian, and he happens to be one of Dr. Sunday's colleagues way back in high school. And he's trying to juggle his memory as much as possible to give us some accounts and some experiences and some memories that he has of Dr. Sunday being colleagues back then in high school. So if you've not shared this link, please go ahead and share. And feel free to drop your comments and let's join the conversation. It will be great that we are in this together. All right, thank you very much for doing that. So I'll be back now with Mr. Bunmi. Let's change the gear a little bit. Yeah. At the point when you left Nigeria to USSR, before then, would you have imagined that he would be a pastor?
Certainly not. Certainly not. That was the last thing that one would think that Sunday back then would become a pastor. No.
That was totally the last thing.
That was the last thing. That was the last thing. God is wonderful. That was the last thing.
Wow. So it was a shock for most people.
Not just being a pastor that is known worldwide. We thank God for that, Sha.
People who are not Nigerians will understand that when a Nigerian says Sha, I'm
sorry to have used that word. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
No. I'm just trying to say that just talks about how, for him to be a pastor today and for what he has achieved, in ministry, it can only be God that would have actually worked there. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to emphasize that just the thought of Dr. Sunday being a pastor and being a successful one at that matter, that's definitely God. So if he was not going to be a pastor, what would you have thought he would have been doing while you guys were in school?
He was an art student. I was a science student. His aspiration then, if I recall, I think he wanted to study journalism, that kind of thing, law, all those things. That was his ambition then. In that Form 4, when we became close, we began to share ideas, dreams, and he would say, my brother in USSR, he said if I could pass, he will ensure I gain admission to university. I would like to study law, journalism, all those things. One never thought he would ever go into the ministry. Wow. That was the last thing that one thought of.
Wow. Was he involved in extracurricular activities? Now we've talked about the sport, but was he, because I think the primates Emmanuel Isigbe said, I think something along the line that he was into the debate team. Do you have any memory of that? Like things that are outside normal school confines.
Uh, Sincerely, I couldn't really remember the debate stuff.
Okay.
I couldn't
Okay.
remember that. But I remember, in fact, he helped me to remember that. Although I also had that picture too. He sent a picture not long ago.
Yeah.
And probably didn't even remember what happened in that picture, but it was a drama. So he was into the drama group at the time.
Good.
He was into the drama group. That was the only thing I can remember about his curricular activities.
Awesome. What kind of influence did so during the time you were together with him, maybe a year or two? What was your relationship like, and what kind of influence did you have on him, and what kind of influence did he have on you? I'm trying to know what was your relationship like, and how did you rub off on each other? What influence did he have on you, and what influence did you have on him? If you get what I'm trying to say.
I do. All I could say is that academics brought us together.
Okay.
I may not want to talk much about myself so that I do not, look as if one is grandstanding or that kind of thing. So it was academics that actually brought us together.
I get
By
it.
that Form 4, he had shown much interest in his studies.
Okay.
And I remember that even up to Form 5, by then, he used to live in one house back then in the Domila. He had a room there. So I remember that we do go to the room to study together in preparation for our West African School certificate exam at the time. So maybe that study habit brought us together, and that area we tried to influence each other.
Good.
That was what I could say about that.
So you were like his study buddy.
Study partner. You could say that.
Good.
You could say that.
Good.
If he still remembers anyway.
Yeah. Interestingly, I think most likely he does, because he has a very sharp memory of his childhood and
Past.
Of his past. Yeah, very, very vivid memory of it. So as a matter of fact, I remember one thing he had told us before, that during the time when he was preparing for his West African school, certificate exam, so he said he would go and play ball with his colleagues, then his mates, and then all of them will be playing ball together. Then
he will read all through the night. At the time, that year, 1985, we finished in 1985.
Yeah.
The result was not so good that year.
Yeah.
But interestingly, he happened to be among those that were able to clinch the minimum of 5 credits at the time, including English and mathematics. Even the mighty ones fell by the wayside at that time. Those that we thought were much more brilliant than him. Yeah. Some did not even have their minimum of 5 credits, including mathematics and English at the time. He had this.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. That was how he was able to take advantage of his scholarship that brought him.
Yes.
That brought him to the former Soviet Union.
Yes.
Good. Awesome.
Belarus, I remember. Minsk.
Minsk. Good. So you said you had been keeping your relationship with him even since then, even right from the time he left and then he came back and all of that.
God is wonderful. Sometimes when matters comes up like this for discourse, and then I have to talk about Sunday, and I do ask myself, why is it that you had kept some of these memories all these years? Why? I couldn't really explain it.
Wow.
Probably it's God that, made one keeps it. So that on days like this,
You
we
can
have
remember.
things to use to talk about his
So,
past.
wow. So, dear viewers, I hope you're enjoying this show. Well, I'm enjoying it. And a lot of things that Mr. Bunmi is talking about Dr. Sunday. Well, guess what, guys? He has with him right now some documents that he has kept, that he shares with Dr. Sunday. So we're going to have Mr. Bunmi right now just walk us through some of the pictures, documents that he has saved. Yeah. So, Mr. Bunmi, are you there, sir?
Yes, I
All
am. I
right.
am. I'm here. I'm with you.
Good. So, yeah, just walk us through some of the things that you have, that could uh, show some of your memories that you have with Dr. Sunday. And you were telling me about how that you are keeping these things, but you are not sure why you were doing that. Can you talk about that?
Honestly, you could not imagine how how I feel right now.
Wow.
You know, uh, like I told you, I do ask myself that why have I kept all this? Could it be that is it God? Is it what has made me keep all these years? I cannot explain myself. I just
Wow.
kept them somewhere. The other time I talk about a photograph.
Yes.
Luckily for me and luckily for DSA team, I have that picture here. In fact, I wrote some things at the back too. If I don't know if my
Yeah, you can bring it
if you
closer.
could
Yeah,
pick
you can bring
this.
it closer. Yes, yes. Okay,
Okay.
good. We can see it.
Now, if you
Okay.
look at that picture, there was one that had a dot. Okay, let
Yes.
me use this finger. This individual, that's Pastor Sunday.
Right there.
I was trying to, the one with dots.
Yes.
Emmanuel Segbe that you mentioned, very good. Interestingly, the two of them were the smallest in size among us back then. This is Emmanuel. This is Emmanuel. This is
Wow.
Emmanuel. That's Emmanuel. He will
Wow.
be surprised to see this picture too. Okay, I wrote something at the back.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it was later. Photograph taken in 1981 from one student of Idomila community, sitting. I think it was after I had sent this to him. If he could still lay hand on it, I said this earlier. So I wrote this to send to him to explain. Sitting first from left is myself, the one
Olubu.
underlined,
Yes.
Bunmi Banjo, and then sitting third from right is Sunday
Sunday.
Adelaja.
Wow.
I have some letters here. You
Wow.
know, like I told you, that's why it's not good to lie sometimes. Like I told you that initially we were not close.
Yes.
Although I was living in Djibouti then, but I do travel to Ibadan. Okay, my parents were in Ibadan then. So when we passed out from secondary school, that was between 85 and 86, he would write letters to me. So Sunday wrote this in, okay, if I check, if I open the letter, this is the letter.
Wow.
Okay, he wrote this, Sunday wrote this himself, 34, 1986.
Wow.
I don't know if you see it.
Yes. Yes. 34
You can see the date?
1986.
Yes,
Yes.
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 I may, because of the time, I may not be able to read it. This was his first letter when we first left school.
Wow.
There, okay, let me see if I can show you the one he wrote last to inform me that I will be going to USSR then.
Wow.
No, that was my response. Each of those letters, I wrote copies of my response and put in these envelopes that you are looking at.
But this is so amazing the way you're able to keep all of these things For these years.
I'm surprised myself. I do not know the reason I had kept this all these years.
Oh my God.
This one, he wrote this. I will try and pick a line or two here.
Okay.
So this one he wrote in
18th June.
Can you see?
Yeah, 18th June 1986.
86. He wrote that. Let me to show that it's him writing.
Wow.
Okay.
Yours sincerely, Sunday. Yeah.
He wrote that. Yes, very good, very good. One of the passage reads, "How are you learning about the old mates? Do you hear from Nnamdi at all?" Nnamdi is or was one of the classmates then. What about Anthony? Our France, you know, I mentioned our France that time.
Yes.
He was mentioning people's names. Korede, Lawal, Adebola, and many others are not even around or something like that. To the glory of God, communication was maintained between me and him for many years. Wow. Even when there were no phones, no internet. Now, when this was his first letter, I have his first letter here. I have series of letters here. Probably you want to see.
Yes. We want to see.
I'm sure you'll be surprised to see all these too. These are Sunday's letters over the years.
Wow.
Maybe I need to move them.
I mean, you are incredible. My God.
Each of these have his letters, my response in them.
My God.
Let me show you so that it will not look as if I'm just deceiving. These are also some. These are some. You could see the envelope. That is so.
Wow.
I will hold it like this.
Wow.
So that.
Whoo.
All these are Sunday's letters written over years. I don't know why I've kept all this. I can't explain it. Only God knows.
Wow. This is just remarkable.
This was his first letter. This was his first letter. You could see the envelope is torn.
Yes.
You could see the envelope is torn. This I received 22/12/1986.
1986.
Not sure whether it could be picked.
Yes.
I stapled it because the envelope is torn.
Yes. Yeah.
So I tried to staple it so that it does not just get lost. So I can check the letter he wrote therein. Okay. This was his first letter to me in 1986. Sunday wrote this. Am I permitted to show it first?
I mean, for sure. There is no hindrance.
Okay. So
okay.
I think that was his first address.
Got it.
12/11. The date is
12/11/86.
1986, yes. So maybe I should just read maybe one or two paragraphs. I'll try to do that very quickly. I'll do that very quickly.
Yes.
Hostel number 1, room 76, Home Skill Lane 12, Minsk 2200-34, Minsk, USSR, 12/11/1986. Should I read on?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. Dear Bunmi, I've been here in Soviet Union since September 15. It's a pity that I have to write you so late. It is due to many circumstances that are beyond my control. I'm sure you too will know that now I'm still studying the language, which needs a lot of homework. Please don't think it is difficult, because I can assure you that no Nigerian student will come here and not know the language. So he thought, okay, maybe you'll be interested in this, just to corroborate his academic interest, before he left Nigeria. I've been admitted to UNIFE before I left Nigeria with 255. Now, the score for JAM then was 400, I think, as it is now. He gave me the analysis then. English, 57. BK, 64. Government, 64. And economics, 70. I think you remember that I wrote you about JAM. So I was waiting for your reply before I got a telegram that I should report at Soviet Embassy in Lagos. It was such in a hurry that I have to leave the country the next Friday, out of which I spent many days traveling. Let me just leave it there. The letter continues. Maybe if you're interested, I can scan it and scan it and show.
Yes, this is
That
giving
was his
me
first
a
letter.
lot of. It's giving me a lot of. How do I say it now? I'm seeing a lot of things about Dr. Sunday that I still see today. Number one is how he values people and how he values your relationship, even as a friend.
Not
And
just me, even others too.
and other
Because you
people.
recall that other letter he was asking about
other people. Yes, that's what I was saying. So
Yes.
how he values it, and then and that's exactly how he is even till now. People today, one of the things that most people talk about with Dr. Sunday is that they are surprised how they write to him and he responds. Because, it's a known fact that you can't just say you want to write to any of the top big pastors
I understand
in the
where you're
world.
going.
And, but with him, he's very accessible, and he doesn't just respond to people. He also writes to check up on people and ask about their welfare and all of that. And he's very intentional about even talking about what is happening in his life and what is happening in your own life and all of that. I can see even that from his text message that is written, or no, not text, but his handwritten message that he wrote to you far back then. There's a lot of consistency in his character that I'm seeing, that has been there even right from those years and those days till now.
There had been. He doesn't look down on people. I could say that about him. And he's always eager to assist. He has that character too. Always eager to assist. He doesn't look down on people. Always available to support people. Always whatever way he could.
True. Let's kind of round up our conversation, right? And let's talk about how did you, this might be a little bit personal, but just be free to talk as much as you can. When you got to know about the Sunday Adelaja, who was back then in Dumila, becoming a world phenomenon, becoming a huge personality, what did that mean to you personally, knowing his background?
No, it only confirms the belief that God is wonderful, God is awesome. There is nothing God cannot do. And when one has hope in God, just leave everything for God, and God will finish up whatever it is. Let us just give God the glory. I can't really say much other than to say that to God be all the glory. Whoever knows Pastor Sunday and his background will always learn to love God, trust God, hope in God, believe in God, and leave everything for him. That's just all I could say for now.
I kind of understand what you're saying because he has shared his background with me. But I feel like, yes, we have to give glory, but there might be some people that might not even have an understanding of why you are making that very deep statement of we have to give God glory. But if, in summary, for people that might not have heard about his background or might not have known where he came from, so how would you like to summarize? And I know it might be a very long story, but how would you like to summarize knowing his background? What about his background do you know that, comparing or thinking about his background and who he is today and who he has become, that you're making a conclusion that no, God has to get the glory? Give just for people who might not know, just to help them.
I don't know how, I do not know if this is apt. In summary, it's like from grass to grace. I do not know if it is apt. And I do not mean to offend anybody. The way you have put it to me, and the only way I could try to express.
Yeah, feel free.
From grass to grace. From grass to grace. God can decide to elevate anybody beyond human understanding. Beyond human understanding. Back then, no one would have thought that Sunday Adelaja of Idomila will become such a pastor in Europe. It's magnificent. God is wonderful.
Yeah, it's well said. Grass to grace, from grass to grace, because he talks about it, and he makes these statements that if he, looking at where he came from and all of the challenges that he had to go through, if he could become somebody in life, he uses it to encourage anyone who cares to listen.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that assertion. I agree with that statement. I agree. That's exactly what I'm trying to just put across. That if that can happen to him, then it means mankind should not, human beings should not lose hope. Just be resolute. Just be focused in God. Rest your hope in God, and God will take care of every other thing. The sky is the limit.
Wow. So your background doesn't necessarily mean you have to remain where you are.
No. Certainly not.
Wow. Awesome. And to round up our conversation, I would like to ask you, what would you like to say to Dr. Sunday as he celebrates his 54th birthday? Or he's actually celebrated it right now. So what would you like to say to him?
Although I had sent messages to him concerning this in the past, now that it's like I'm here, I'll say it again. He may be undergoing persecution, but God that sees him through up till this hour, God that has been with him since his childhood days up till now, and that has seen him through all those years of tribulation, that God is still there. That God is still there. All I will encourage him is he should continue to put his hope in God. He should continue to remain steadfast in him, and every other thing will all ills. There is no ill that is insurmountable. There is no challenge, no tribulation, no problem that is insurmountable and that God cannot conquer. So he should just keep on holding on to God, and God will see him through. He should also remain steadfast and ensure that he does not take wrong steps. I wish him the best and many more years, many more fruitful years in the service of God.
Beautiful. Well, there you go, dear viewers. That is Mr. Bunmi Banjo. Thank you very much. You took us down the memory lane today. I mean, to be very honest, respect to you for keeping all of that.
God.
Yeah, you know, it's remarkable, I must say, and I think it's beautiful to have people who have known you for the longest time, and they have seen your life journey. You know, they've seen how you've journeyed through life from the lowest of the lows and to the highest of the highs, you know, and to still be in contact and to still talk to you and to still have that friendship. So that is beautiful. And we want to say thank you very much for making yourself available today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks for the privilege. It's an
Awesome.
honor.
Thank you very much, sir. Our
Thank you
regards
too.
to your family and to everyone who helped in making this possible. Uh,
Greetings to the flock of God there too.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. All right. So, to our viewers, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your attention. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you were able to learn a few things. I hope you were able to also experience the young Dr. Sunday far back in his high school in Domila through the lens of Mr. Bunmi Banjo. If you've not shared this video, I'd like to encourage you to please go ahead and share it. It would be great to have more people even get to hear some of the testimonies and stories of Dr. Sunday. All right, so my name is Anujo, and we're coming to you live from Kyiv, Ukraine. We wish you a wonderful evening. Take care of yourself, and bye for now. Bye.